हमारे बीच पूज्य संतों पूज्य पधार चुके हैं।
kanshi sishin sumbayi chintan tumbala name jawa tenjin jebanjung sishin dumar tendu. Respected venerable monks, various organizations, NGOs or students organization for arranging this discussion. Very dear friends, I am happy to be once again in this hall with many promising new generation who are the holders of the future of this region and India as nation and for the universal humanity to achieve some kind of peace and stability among the sentient beings in the future. This region called Mülchibijung is a very unique and special area in which mostly people reside who are followers of Buddha Dharma, the philosophy of interdependence, and practitioner of non-violence. I was asked to discuss with you what the ancient Nānanda Buddhist academic education has to give to the young generation. That's one topic. And the increasing problems of drug abuse among the young generation in the Mon region, and how to drug addiction could ruin one's life and its social effects. You have just chosen very appropriate themes for our discussion. But the problem is I have been asked to communicate in English language, a language which I have never been learned and I do not know appropriately. My English is very poor. In spite of that, since you have asked this language as a medium, I will try. If you are unable to understand, you can interrupt me, and I will try to clarify. As a matter of fact, language is less important than the contents, yet it has its own unique role to play as a medium of communication. Communication means to connect the speaker and the audience, not only brain to brain, but heart to heart. So therefore, the medium has its own importance and also its own limitations. With the understanding of this fact, we will try to communicate in my broken English language. The first speaker has already mentioned how the positive things are important and we should be having positive attitude and ideas all the time. But in reality, the positiveness is in relation with the negative. And therefore, we have to understand the basic principle of interdependence, in which there's not much difference between positive and negative, good and bad, high and low. All these are being designated in relation to something. Therefore, the basic nature of interconnectedness of all existence, the beings and the no-beings, the sentients or the unsentients, everyone has a unique kind of inseparable connectedness with each other. If we understood this law of nature, there's no cause or there's no place for divisions and conflicts. What the ancient Nalanda Buddhist academic education has to give, Buddhist academic education, we shall have to rephrase or reconsider whether the Buddhist wisdom can be considered into the categories of academic education. Academic education, the word academic and the education, both are from the Western originated languages. And they have their own ways of looking at it. Particularly when we say academic, I know many academicians in this world, and particularly the Western academic community has a kind of blind faith. They consider to be academician, one should be no believer. If you are believing in one or the other tradition of religion, then you cannot be a very positive academician. I remember a real incident. I was in the selection committee for selecting a professorship in the Buddhist studies, involved with very prestigious universities in USA. There are 2 experts from US, and I was the only non-Western member in that committee. And there are 3 candidates. All the three are very outstanding scholars of Buddhist studies, and they have translated many Buddhist treatises into English language. And among them, one is a declared Buddhist practitioner, Buddhist follower. And he was no less knowledgeable in the Buddhist studies are concerned. Then the experts were discussing that he is okay, but he is a believer of Buddhist practitioner. So therefore he may not be able to deal with Buddhism from critic viewpoint. So therefore, as an unbiased academician, should not have any belief in a particular religion. So that candidate who is a Buddhist practitioner were not choosing, thinking that he may not be critically able to examine the Buddhist study methods in the research and teaching as well. So I'm telling this how the Western people use the academic and education. So we should know, since the language is coming from the Western country, how the connotation attached to these words from the original speakers, from the native who use this as one's own mother tongue, are thinking in these words. A good academician need to be non-believer, and the education is considered something to indoctrinate certain viewpoints to the students. That may not be 100% true, but it is partially true. We are experiencing the force of so-called education, which brought from Western countries to this land of Aryans, Ayavat birth. India gained political freedom 77 years ago. Only 3 days before we celebrated the Independence Day. And even after 77 years, the India could not get freedom from the system of education which is being designed and implemented by the Lord Macaulay. In 1830s, I think in 1834, he gave a speech in the British Parliament, and they come to the conclusion that unless the education system of India is completely changed, we may not be able to rule the India forever. 2 reasons. Number one, the moral strength of the Indian people, and second, the population. India is very small populated country, and to send the rulers from inland cannot be fully sufficient to carry the entire administration. So he suggested to create a special kind of class, color and body as Indian, but liking, disliking, thinking, and mental attitude completely are British. Through that class, we can rule the Indian people. So this education system has completely rooted out the Indian Shiksha Paddhati in very short period of time. Around 60, 70 years, the Indian Shiksha Paddhati completely disappeared. In the 1910, when Mahatma Gandhi wrote the great treatise Hind Swaraj, by that time, the entire India, the ancient Shiksha Paddhati has been completely disappeared. It's less than 100 years, the Macaulay was so successful. Even today, we are great under the influence of the Macaulay system, in spite of number of education commissions have been set up and delivered in the issue. You might remember, just after the independence, Radhakrishnan Education Commission. From Radhakrishnan Commission to Acharya Ramamati Commission, I think 5 or 6 different commissions have been set up. Only the Kothari Commission report was partially implemented. The rest of all the commission's reports remain unimplemented. Now the new education policy of 2020, which has many positive things in that, and some kind of initiative or intention to impart higher education, including medical and sciences, in our own language, Indian languages. But last 3 years, since the come out of the new education policy 2020, no educational institutions has taken positive initiative to bring the higher education into our own languages. So I don't know when it will be in reality. The Indian languages, there are so many Indian languages, they are very efficient and standard languages such as Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Gujarati, Punjabi. All these languages are capable of communicating everything, but still it has been considered as an unqualified medium for higher education such as medical and pure sciences and technology. We are still under the influence of foreign language. So that is just a background. We shall have to think ancient Indian wisdom as a whole, not only the Buddhist and Nalanda tradition. His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, has a number of commitments, and one of his recent commitments was to popularize the ancient Indian wisdom as a whole. A few years back, he was thinking to set up an institute for promoting Nalanda tradition. Now that has been changed into the Center for Tibetan and ancient Indian wisdom. Ancient Indian wisdom is almost completely disappeared from India. Only few traditions have some kind of undisturbed tradition, but they are very few. As a matter of fact, India was the country from which the great wisdom and experiential awakening was started from this land. And therefore, India was considered as, in real sense, Jagat Guru, the world teacher. India can become once again world teacher only if the India could regain its ancient wisdom. India cannot become a world teacher in the field of modern education, science and technology. You can never dream in these fields India may become the world teacher, Jagat Guru. And it has no value also. There are so many world teachers at the moment in this world, and India need not to compete with them. The real need of humanity is the ancient Indian wisdom, which gives the humanity as humanity to become as a real human being who could be live with peace and harmonious with fellow human beings as well as with the nature, so that the life can be used in a positive way, not in a negative way of struggling with each other, competing and struggling and remain in the conflicts. So therefore, we should look for the ancient Indian Shiksha system or ancient Indian wisdom, which can give here again I would say, can give or can take, from which the younger generation can take so many things if they wish. Among the ancient Indian tradition, ancient Indian wisdom, there are 6 very famous traditions. One is the Vaisheshik, the other is the Nyayak, the logicians, and the third is the Sangha, and the fourth is Mimamsak, and the fifth is Digambar or Jain, and the sixth is Charavak. This 6 tradition I am talking about the non-Buddhist traditions. Many of them developed in India before Buddha's time. Jain was almost contemporary with Buddha. So these traditions are great wisdom in every field. Understanding of the nature and understanding of the whole phenomenon and understanding of the entire sentient being, what is the bondage and what is the freedom. All these are given by these different traditions. Among these traditions, for example, the Vaisheshika or the Vedantika, they are also internally different traditions, Vedic and Vedanta, Sankhya and Sankhya Yoga. Unfortunately, in these days, most of the traditions are almost completely disappear. Now the Jainism exists in good shape, and some of Sankhyas and Sankhya Yoga, very few people, but they still have good scholars. Otherwise, the rest of the things, for example, Charvak was not an important tradition. It's a kind of no-believer who did not believe into continuity of the consciousness, no previous life, no future life. So this is the materialistic tradition, philosophy. Many people think that the materialism is originated from the West. It was also not true. The real materialism is started from India. The Marxists and the Leninists and the modern materialistic are mostly taking the basic ideas from the ancient Indian materialistic philosophical traditions. Then Buddhist is one of the ancient Indian wisdom. And in the later stage, in the recent times, for example, the Sikhism was not very ancient, and Aurobindo philosophy is very recent, very deep. The philosophy of Aurobindo is very much similar with the philosophy of Kalachakra Tantra, and then Krishnamurti in contemporary time, Swami Vivekananda. Of course, he was an Vedic. In spite of that, his own different interpretations of the Vedic and Vedanta. So these things, the wisdom which is of Indian origination. Now, what the younger generation can take, or this ancient Indian wisdom can give to the younger generation. It can give the younger generation a perfect view of things, to view everything without any distortion. See the things as such as it is. Yatha bhut tathata. The present modern worldview is a distorted worldview. We are not able to see the things as it is. It has been diluted from various ways to dilute them and to distort them. That's why we are losing the human dignity, human values, and we are not able to live a harmonious life. The entire problem in this world is being created due to the modern worldview, giving importance to self and reversing many natural orders. unless we go back to the ancient Indian wisdom, we were not able to find the purpose of our basic life. Why we are born in a human being, as a human being. And as a human being, do we have a purpose of life? Or we are similar with the animals? Born, eat, lead the life, bring children, raise them up, and die. So this is the birds and the animals in the jungle, they also do that. And if humanity is doing only that, then the human life cannot be considered as special and superior than the animal kingdom or than the rest of the non-human creatures. As I am not calling the ancient Indian wisdom not an education system. It is a shiksha paddhati, but not an education system. The ancient Indian wisdom will teach you to understand, to know the things, not to accept the things. The modern education system demands you to accept what the teachers or what the books have told to you, and it's not necessary to know them. Knowing and accepting is entirely too different. In the present education system, that's why I tell that it is brainwashing and indoctrination, because something which have been experimented by someone, a good scientist might be, and he or she tells that this is this, and then we all follow that. And we never trying to understand by oneself. The ancient Indian wisdom, what the Buddha have said very clearly, O monks and wise people, as a goldsmith examines the gold by burning it, by cutting it, by rubbing it, then the goldsmith will decide it is pure gold or it is impure gold. Similarly, what I have said shall have to be examined by hearing, by contemplating, and by meditating. When you find yourself it is correct and it is okay, then you accept it. Otherwise, due to devotion to me or due to faith to me, you should never be accept what I have said. So that means knowing is important and acceptance is not important. Acceptance, whatever is acceptance without knowing, is in the category of blind faith. So that's why I usually used to say the many religious traditions have a separate number of blind faiths, but the modern scientific knowledge, so-called, has also separate much larger blind faith in the humanity that we need to understand. Our education system, everything is decided by the book writers, and whatever written in the book and whatever is said by the teacher, then that we repeat in our examination. That's okay. Then there's no process for learning and knowing the things. It's a real story I remember all this time. I visit in Manam Sangra, a museum of man in Bhopal, because it was set up when I was in Saranatha. I know the process. And then after my retirement, I happened to visit to that museum, and the curator was so courteously conducting me through the museum. And on the gate itself, the human evolution, we are in a monkey and then slowly first on the 4 legs and then 2 legs and then in a state. So he was telling that story to me. And then I asked him, "You know it?" He says, "Yes, I know." "How you know it?" It was told by the Darwin and is very famous. And it happened to that. Yes, Darwin have said, but you have experimented that or you have researched in that? No, why I need to research? It was already researched and already established things. Then I jokingly asked, in Dharamshala there are many monkeys are still alive where I live. And I think in Bhopal also you might have monkeys. Yes, there are so many monkeys. Then what was wrong with them? Some portion of monkeys are being evolved as human beings, and still rest of the monkeys are unevolved. Can you tell me what is the cause? Evolving into human beings has what kind of genetic differences they have, and the still remaining monkeys have done something wrong, or what is the deficiency in them? So I don't know. We never thought on that direction. That means he was accepting what Darwin had told to him, and he never tried to know by himself. So ancient Indian knowledge, ancient Indian wisdom, always emphasizes knowing by oneself. That is the authentic. That is not a blind faith. Then someone is asked to why you say this or why you accept this way, then he or she will be able to explain logically, and then we become rational. We are not accepting something without experimenting or without examining it thoroughly by oneself. So this is the difference, the modern education and ancient education system, ancient Shiksha system, so that we need to be remembered all the time. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama has a unique contribution. That was his dialogue with the modern science people. Basically, physicists and neurologists and psychologists. Now many other disciplines are also joined. More than 35 years now, this dialogue has been on. Dialogue between Buddhist science and modern science that give a new vision for the world. Acharya Beno Bhavi used to say, if the modern scientific could develop without any disturbance continuously, a time will come, the Indian spiritual wisdom and modern science knowledge will meet together. And at that time, we can hope for a new world order, a peaceful and harmonious new world order. So in the beginning, I used to oppose him. I said the scientific development can never be reached to the Indian spiritual wisdom. My argument was the modern scientific knowledge development is dependent on human ordinary mind. and they never try to improve the human mind. Unless and until the human mind is improved in the capacity to see the things rationally and as it is, not through just a majority of the experiments. Experiment means we do not know, but we are just experimenting. A disease and a medicine, the scientists do not have the real knowledge what is the disease and what is the cause of disease, and how the medicine can eradicate the cause of disease and how it be cured. They are not able to see that. So therefore, medicine is experimenting to a patient once, twice, thrice, 90%, 95%, it become effective. Then they say, yeah, this is good for this disease. So this is just approximating, imagination, or kind of borrowed way of knowing the things. So real thing is to look into the reality, what is the cause of the disease, what is the antidote of that cause of disease, and how this medicine has a certain quality, a property to eradicate the cause of disease. The ancient Indian Ayurveda system or Chikitsa Vidya is to go with like that. Enlightened people through the elevated spiritual human mind, they know the things directly. They are not through an experimentation. There is a tree full of fruits, and you take around 100 fruit from that, and you just experiment, and all the 100 you find it sweet. Then you say the remaining fruits are also all sweet. It can be wrong. The remaining fruits on that tree can be some unripe and improperly growth and may not be sweet. So it is not knowing the thing as on the ground. It is just you experiment certain amount of them, and from that you infer. The rest would be the similar to that. So this is the difference of the modern knowledge and the ancient wisdom. So if you take the entirety of the ancient Indian wisdom, that can give you a real understanding of self, the others, and the world. And if you have the understanding of the self and the others and the world, then there will be no room for conflict, contradiction, misery, or struggles. No problem. So this kind of worldview can only give by the ancient Indian wisdom. The modern science claims many things they have discovered by their own experiments, which are very well known in the ancient Indian system. I can take a few examples. For example, the principle of gravity, how the earth and the other things contain the gravity property, and which was recently, I do not remember exactly, but a few hundred years it was discovered. 2000 years before, the Nagarjuna and Ardev have written already this kind of gravity system. Why the water is thrown down? Because the gravity system is remain like that. So this earth is round and sun and moon are not moving, earth is moving. This knowledge also comes from India, from Nalanda. Aryabhat was the first person to tell the sun and moon not moving, the earth is just moving roundly. No Western thought has discovered that earlier. Aryabhat was a later part of the 5th century and the early part of the 6th century. And the Western people know about the present universe or the world, the earth or the other things are moving. But even the Indian people do believe that these informations are only from the outside. Similarly, the particles, small particles, and invisible insects in the water. During Buddha's time, it was very much in the talk. And a combination of particles to form a gross shape, and how much these smallest particles are divided or divisible. So these discussions are much more than the modern atomic scientific way of thinking. So what I'm trying to tell is we need to understand the ancient Indian wisdom as a whole. And then we shall have to compare it with the modern so-called scientific knowledge, and which are understandable, which are yet to be researched and learned over. And through that, it will give basically the ancient Indian wisdom, if you are properly use it in an appropriate way, it will give you understanding of self and the strength of self. And thereby, you will be able to respect the others in order to respect self. And then you will be able to differentiate the understanding and the acceptance. हिंदी में इसको और सरलता से कहा जा सकता है जाना और मानना. हम लोग ज़्यादातर मान लेते हैं, जानते नहीं हैं. बिना जाने जो मान लेना है वो कभी भी धोखा दे सकते हैं. जान करके माना वो कभी धोखा नहीं देंगे. बिना जाने जो मान लेते हैं उससे जब धोखा खाते हैं तब समझते हैं कि मैं गलत मानता था. My understanding, my acceptance was false. It was not based on the reality, on the facts. Then you will be able to understand what is the law of nature, what is the human dignity, what is the human duty. The modernity has changed many orders. The humanity basically, by its nature, the user of natural resources. We are the user of natural resources. All the living beings, the sentient beings, do have birthright to use the natural resources in accordance to our need. That is the natural thing. Now, the modern system has changed. We have become consumer, not user. And we consume the natural resources without our need, not depending on our need. Much more than consuming the resources is consuming some other's share. Gandhi has very rightly said that this Mother Earth can satisfy every living being on it for their needs. But the entire earth will never be able to satisfy a single person's greed. Now we are driving by greed. We are using that, we are consuming that. Using means properly use. उपयोग, हिंदी में उपयोग कहते हैं. जब तक हम उपयोग करते रहे, हमारे पास कोई कमी नहीं थे, किस चीज़ की कमी नहीं थे. यह धरती माता है, इस पर रहने वाले सभी जीवों की, चाहे वो कीड़ा मकोड़ा हो, चाहे वो आदमी हो, सभी जीवों की आवश्यकता को पूर्ति करने की क्षमता वो रखते हैं. जब हम उपयोग करना छोड़ करके उपभोग करने में चले जाते हैं, तो फिर वह एक आदमी का भी लोभ का पूर्ति नहीं कर सकते हैं. So this is the basic change. Then similarly, the modernity have put the rights as first and duties as second. I'm not telling it at random. You look the so-called United Nations deliberations. They have so-called declaration, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but they have never done anything, Universal Declaration of Human Duties, Human Responsibilities. In the ancient wisdom, responsibility and duties are first. If you are performing your duties correctly, no one can take away your rights. Your rights will always be safe if you are performing your own duties. If you are lacking in your duties, then your rights might be damaged or disturbed. So this balance is also destroyed. And in the ancient wisdom says, self and the rest are interdependent, all are equally important. The modern education or modern system says, self-right is most important. You can use your self-rights even in spite of integrating over the others' rights as well. So this kind of approach has lowered the human dignity. So therefore, I'm coming back to the basic point. To understand ancient Indian Shiksha, you have to adopt the ancient system of learning. Ancient system of learning, in the beginning, you have to listen, you have to read, or you have to listen from the teacher. There's a Shruti Mai Pragyan, a Gyan which is acquired by the hearing. Then you have to examine it through various logic and reasoning. In Buddhist tradition, there are 4 kinds of reasoning by your own thinking process, contemplating over and over again. So then you will understand, you will have an understanding. That is a Chintanmaya Pragyan. And after Chintanmaya Pragyan, then you have to meditate upon it. Meditate upon it does not mean sit cross legs and that also in the meditation. Meditate upon it means then what you have concluded through your rational analyzation and examination of the thing, then you will find it, the conclusion, and then you concentrate on that conclusion through your whole mindset. And then through your whole mindset, you will achieve not the perceive knowledge, not the conceive knowledge, but perception. You will have direct understanding of the reality. And then you are a wise person. And then you can discriminate what is right and what's wrong. Then you can protect yourself. You can do everything. You can achieve everything. What is your life means for. Then the second point, increasing problems of drug abuse among the young generation. There are so many things of drug, different kind of drug, but I hope in this region the threat is not the modern Western chemical drugs. It might be some intoxicating plants or such other things. To prevent addition of such thing, we need cooperation of many stakeholders. First and foremost, family members, particularly the parents, to keep vigilance to the younger generation, their food habits, and their way of life. And then the family members and parents should very affectionately, peacefully, to discuss with them the merits and demerits of using such drug, not through just quarreling with them or using harsh methods. That will not work. It may appear to be difficult, but parents should be very patient. Other family members should also be very patient. Even you find using some drugs by some of the younger generation, the first reaction should not be a kind of anger, but loving kindness. And through discussion and through a persuasion, a peaceful persuasion, compassionate and affectionate persuasion, not to indulge to that. Then second is friends and teachers in the school. In the school, to keep a vigilance watch is very important. And still there, the remedy should be a compassionate one. In today, the methods are using either in the schools or in the family, fear and expectations, desire and fear. That is wrong method. In the ancient system, no positive change can bring about through creating fear or giving hope or desire. So, to explain, to discuss, and to encourage, to cooperate to the people, not to become under the influence of dark editions. And someone is edited, then there need to be proper method to coming out of that edition. So these are the modern methods also, but the ancient method is to peaceful persuasion and loving kindness through which the person can be protected from. Then the more responsibility is the administration and the government. There should be a very strict vigilance and to control according to the law. In every country, everywhere, there are very appropriate laws to control such drugs and intoxicating materials. But these laws are not being implemented, and the lawkeepers can be bribed, and the corruptions are going on. All the corruptions are anti-humanity, and all kind of problems are come through corruption of the administration. But corruption in this kind of intoxication, which ruins the human individual's life, not only individual's life, ruins the society. So such way, in this kind of transition, the corruptions should never be tolerated. In India, there is a vocabulary, zero corruption. So, shall have to be taken. So, it is the responsibility of teachers, friends, community, family, parents, and also the religious preachers, the monastic people. They also should contribute whatever they can do to prevent such disease. And they need to be always watched. And whenever you feel there's some doubt or there's some fear, then shall have to be investigate and try to control them. Then finally, if someone is irritated, then to come out of it, the first and most needed is self-determination and self-competence. That can only be created by near friends and dears and teachers and religious practitioners. So everybody should try to prevent it. So time is up, so I will stop my words here, and I think there are some little time for question, answer, or discussion, or comments. Thank you very much for your attention.
Your Eminence, Venerable Rinpoche, I have collected a few questions from the audience. May I have permission to...
Please.
Your Eminence, the first question is from Master Basni Flago. He is a student of class 10, and he has asked, Rinpoche, my question is that, what is the meaning of drugs in Buddhist books? Why people consume it?
In the Buddhist terminology, In the Buddhist terminology, there's one word is Nyunjur. Nyunjur means intoxicating. It may be a drink, it may be in the food particle, whatever it may be. When you consume it, it disturbs your mental balance. Nyu means you are not able to think properly, recognize properly, see properly, and if you use it more, then that also becomes your body unstable. Your body cannot function properly. Because it is called Nyunjur, means the usual way of functioning of body and mind is disturbed due to that drink or that eating, and through which the power of discrimination, the pragyan, what is right, what is wrong, what I should do, what I should not do, this kind of discrimination is being taken away. So therefore it is most dangerous. So the basic 5 vows the Buddhists used to take: no killing, no stealing, no untruth telling, sexual misconduct, and not using the intoxicating things. Because intoxicating things will take away the discriminative power of the mind, therefore you can involve in many other serious negative things. So therefore it should be avoided. Next.
Similar question was there from Pasang Singh also, so I will not repeat the question. Next question is from Manav. He is a student of class 10, and his question is, when a student gets failed or whenever he or she gets a low marks in examination, so why he or she is being looked down? This is the first question, Michala. And he has asked 3 questions. Second question is, even knowing that the drug is very harmful, why people consume it? And his third and last question is, a student who do not speak English but have a skill, but everyone...
Sorry, you repeat the first question.
When a student gets low marks or is failed in examination, why he or she is being looked down?
I don't know. We cannot say why. It is now a kind of social system. Actually, the method of examination in the modern education system is also coming from the Macaulay, and we are still preserving it. And that does not able to judge the real standard of the student. One of my colleagues, when I was a school teacher, used to say that today's system of examination is to find out what the student does not know. It is not for the find out what the student know. So from this kind of examination, you will never be able to evaluate what he or she knows. It only evaluates what she or he does not know. So as long as we are compelled to go through this kind of system, then the habitual of society's way to looking down, because the low mark is representing that not able to give correct answer to the questions. That means the boy or girl does not know the answer. So that's why they look down. But the boys and girls themselves should not be discouraged. They should have self-confidence and self-evaluation. And through that, whatever is the deficiency, they shall have to be pick up. Second?
Arjula's second question is, those students who can't speak fluently in English, so are they should be treated as uneducated?
That I don't know. I usually used to say, when I have to deal with educated people, I used to say I'm an educated, and I'm proud of it. I have never gone through education, but I do have some kind of a shiksha. So that's a different way of looking. And actually, even the education system itself, their evaluation is not only the skill of language. There are ways to evaluate the skill of knowledge as well. Knowledge and language is a different thing. Knowledge is to be acquired by mind, and language is to be acquired, the skill of language to be acquired through practice. And even you does not have a appropriate strength of expression, that does not lower down the status of your understanding. Then next.
Ranjula, the next question is, one Namgya Tokar, she's a student of class 9, and she's asking, in your point of view, how can education change one's life and how it is important?
Education does change one's life, I think, in every education, but changing is for the better or for the worse. That is a different way of looking at it. As I mentioned before, the today's system of education is indoctrinating something. If you look, most of the educated people, it is not, I can't say entirely, but majority of them, the modern educated people have less respect for the tradition, for the culture of one's own roots. Someone educated from the modern education system comes back to one's own village home, then their way of living, their house, their sanitation, and all things appearing something inadequate or not up to the mark, and then thereby a feeling of proudness or arrogant. So this is changing the life by the modern education. If education may also change the life to understand the one's own roots and one's own traditional culture, what are the basic values then. So in this way, the education or the shiksha is changing for the better way. And even there is some shortcoming, they will not look at it as inferior. They will find out the cause and they will try to improve the things by removing the cause and giving the appropriate way to improving things and to change the local life. So these are just an example. but it means the human approach to the world. The education should be able to give a human individual to approach the world with a compassionate mind, or approach to the world with competition and comparison. So that is another way of changing. The today's education mostly changed the life to become from a cooperator to competitor. Now even the brothers and sisters have become competitors. So that's why the human relation is being breaking down. So how to change one's life through education is mostly depend on how the student receives the education in an appropriate way or in negative way.
Next question is from Lobsang Thakur Serdam, and she wants to ask, if the ancient Indian education system is broad, is it really worth reading texts such as Manusmriti, which has the caste system written in it, where the women are inferior to men? Is this kind of books really worth studying in this era?
Very important question. I welcome this question. Manusmriti is a treatise which is questioned by many ancient sages and scholars as well, whether it should be considered as ancient Indian wisdom or it is some corrupted way of the expressing the ancient Indian system. Now I have to tell two things. All the treatises should understand what is the intention of the writer and what is the basic hidden meaning of the word. If you interpret the words directly, they may spread a misunderstanding. Even the Buddha have said many different words. Buddha's words are never consistent. He never tried to be consistent. Different listener he will use to teach differently. And in the Buddhist scripture, there's words that father and mother should be killed. And two Burmese who are very care of taking cleanness, they should also be killed. And you will get freedom. So the killing is not the intention of the Buddha. And neither it is the real inside meaning of the world. But it is symbolically something they have said. So similarly, Manusmriti shall have to be studied in depth and what is the real meaning of its words. And it's not to be taken as verbatim, shabdashay. Shabdarth and artharth, the meaning of the word and the meaning of the meaning. These are two different ways of interpreting. Anyhow, now Manusmriti is not considered to be part of Vedas and Upanishads. So therefore we shall have to more concentrate to real treatises such as Vedas and Upanishads and Puranas and Dharma Shastra. These are the basic treatises of the ancient Indian wisdom. Then in Buddha, the Tripitaka. In Jaina, there's Agamas. So these are the authentic things. And there are many things, particularly differentiating between sentient beings, not only among the human beings, even differentiating between animals and human beings, that is incorrect. And all sentient beings are equal. That is well established through logic, through reasoning, and through experiential and everything. There's no argument to differentiate between races or castes. All these are, if you are not able to understand the real meaning behind it, then you should be rejected as whole.
Two more questions are here.
Yes.
Last question. This question is from Namke Khando. He's a class 11 student, and his question is, what the people of India should do to preserve the ancient Indian wisdom?
This is very clear. They should learn. There should not be ignorance of the ancient Indian wisdom. If possible, before knowing the Western education, we should have known our own education, our own Shisha. That's more important. Unless and until you don't know what is ancient Indian wisdom, you cannot adopt them or you cannot reject them. To reject ancient Indian wisdom without knowing it, that means stupid. Without knowing how you can reject them. To accept them without knowing, that's also not the wise way. So, Indian people should aware of there was a great treasure of wisdom in the ancient Indian system, and we are the citizens of India. We have a fundamental right as well as responsibility to know them. After knowing them through your own rational examination, you find it useless, then you can reject it through logically and rationally. If you find them useful, then you should adopt them. And neglecting one's own wealth in the house and trying to get something, borrowing from outside, that is not a wise way to do. Next.
Yes, Mithila, this is the last question, and I think this is very relevant to today's context. And the question is asked by Sonam Rema, BA third year student. Her question is, how to remain positive in adverse situations?
In the human life, in the life of unenlightened individuals, ups and downs, positive and negative, different way of situation cannot be denied. It will come. But at that time, in the recent Indian sage, not very old one, during the 20th century, Sai Baba in the Maharashtra, Shinji was the village, there used to be a Baba. He always used to say, Saburi Sharda. Saburi means to enduring. Shraddha means faith on oneself and one's own deeds. Adverse situation, the first danger is losing one's own discriminative power, appropriate thinking. So therefore, we shall have to protect one's own pragya, one's own discriminative mind. We have to fight against the fear first. Any adverse situation occurs, the first is the fear. Fear comes out, the fear of self-losing or self-damaging. And at that time, this situation is not time to running away from the events. Instead, one shall have to face the challenge squarely. This courage has to be preserved in the first one. And after that, one need little patience, not in a hurry to react. In an adverse situation, people do mistakes due to in hurriness to react immediately. Any adverse situation, without proper thinking, the immediate thought, it may be anger, it may be fear, it may be a desire, whatever comes, that creates an immediate reaction. That immediate reaction may not be appropriate. So therefore, give a space. In India, in the villages, they used to have this system. If you are in an adverse situation, count hundreds and then react. That means to think properly. Of course, some kind of accident during which there's no space of time to think over, yet we should collect the wholeness of mind as far as possible, and that collectiveness of the mind will give you strength and not carry away by the fear of the situation. And to protect from the fear, because there's no use to fear. You are in the adverse situation, and now you will or you not will, you are willing or you are unwilling, you have to face that challenge. So therefore the fear is useless. So give up the fear. And then what is the best way to come out of that situation? So that kind of appropriate examination of the situation and the collectiveness of the one's own mind will give you a positive reaction. And then once the reaction is expressed, then there's no way out to change it. So therefore, before reacting something, the need to be proper examination is very necessary. Of course, it is easy to talk, and it real comes into the life. Adverse situation, the fear is very difficult to avoid. But every day one should practice to image something challenge, big challenge comes. All of a sudden, then you can also image different ways of the challenges or adverse situations. Without coming, you image that they have come. Then how I shall react? If someone abuses me, how I will react? If someone blames me untruthfully, how I react? All these things, in a usual way, we can practice slowly, and that will give you some kind of strength or some kind of habitualness to react into the adverse situations.
Thank you very much, Ruchara. और यहाँ जो भी आशीष वचन और जो मार्गदर्शन आज हम सबको प्राप्त हुआ है, तो इसको सिर्फ सुनकर मात्र नहीं रखना है और हम सबको इसको जहाँ तक हो सके इसको अपने जीवन में इम्प्लीमेंट करना होगा। संयम बरतनी है, धैर्य रखनी है और शांत मन से सोचिएगा जब कभी भी आप खराब सिचुएशन में हो। और सबसे बड़ी बात तो यहाँ पर ये है कि स्वयं को समझना होगा, तभी आप दूसरों को समझ पाएंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद विमोचना। और यहाँ अब जो विद्यार्थी परिषद है वो पूज्य विमोचन जी को समृद्धि चिन्ह भेंट करना चाह रहे हैं, तो ये समृद्धि चिन्ह भेंट करेंगे।
Thank you very much for your attention and also your very appropriate questions. Sorry, I am not able to fulfill your wishes. My answers may not be very satisfactory. Anyhow, it can be considered as a point to discussion. Thank you.